This is where I get on.
I'm not the weird one.
This shit is like World War III. World War III.
I've got brain like you wouldn't believe.
After 6 years, HLVRAI 2 is here. And with Act 2 on the horizon, and with the frankly insane reception y'all gave me for my previous video, I think I should probably cover it. With the series now officially underway, I feel like it's important to cover everything that's come in Act 1 and the big changes of everything that's came with it. Obviously, we have a new cast, new characters, returning characters, and a bunch of new lore tidbits that I wanted to sort through with an easy kind of refresher if you just don't want to go through the video again before Act 2, although this is probably going to end up being still stupidly long. Act 1 covers most of the beginning chapters of Half-Life 2 up until around when you meet Manhack Matt in the base game. It already has some very interesting things to dissect and break apart. With the new cast helping Gordon to big lore reveals and mysteries that will probably be keeping me up at night, we have plenty to sink our teeth into, and I'm not going to mince too many words and get straight into it. If you have seen my previous video with the stuff predating Half-Life 2, this video will be structured pretty similarly. When it comes to the recap segment, I want to put more focus on the specific bits that I think should be talked about before we get into stuff like the character analysis, so the recap's going to be a little bit more in-depth, despite it technically being less content to cover compared to the previous video. We're also going to be looking a little bit more in-depth in character analysis stuff, because we've got plenty of new toys in the toy box, so to speak, and plenty of returning characters with interesting status quo changes. But first, let's go over a recap of Act 1, and some light pit stops when I feel like there's something that's worth digging into overall.
You're not the type of person you don't want to fall into the trap where you like start watching something and your first instinct is to look up the Wikipedia article synopsis.
Guys, what is the Half-Life 2 ending explained?
HLVRAI 2 Act 1 was recorded on March 14th, 2026, with the final edit, the one we are discussing, coming out on the 31st of the same month. Act 1 begins with none other than Tommy as G-Man messing up his monologue before Gordon is thrust into City 17, where he finds Coomer. This sequence establishes a lot, namely that HL2VR is actually the same executable file as HL1VR. This isn't a surprise, since the teaser said as much, that the game world is evolving, and that the AIs in it continue to grow and adapt despite Gordon not being there. In fact, the AIs existing, despite there being no player, seems to be a major theme in this series, and is further supported by the custom chapter names. In this case, point insertion has been changed to without a player. We also learned that the lore for the Combine is relatively unchanged from base Half-Life 2. They are still an alien multi-universe spanning empire that took over, and Dr. Breen is still the former admin of Black Mesa. Dr. Coomer also details later the 7-Second War, as world peace had been functionally established after the US government demilitarized post the Black Mesa incident. This also likely means that because Benry wasn't using the same powers of the Nihilinth portal storms, they were kind of like a non-issue, which is nice, I guess, because Zen fauna just kind of doesn't seem to be an issue post Black Mesa incident. Speaking of Coomer, he keeps his Half-Life 1 model to show he has not evolved with the rest of the world, keeping a bit crushed voice to sound like HL1 even. In stream, he mentioned using the internet on Gordon's computer to surf the web and visit other games, although this information was cut from the final version, so it should be taken with a grain of salt unless it's brought up again. Gordon also drinks the water that makes you forget. We also meet our first new character, Christopher, who says the water makes you smarter. Gordon has a nice moment of Benry-induced paranoia as he fears the Metro cops will try to get his ID, which is fun. And then we get the final speech from Dr. Coomer before he seemingly willingly gets taken to Nova Prospect. Before I talk about Nova Prospect, I'd like to talk about his whole speech, as it brings up some interesting breadcrumbs that I think will stay as the main theme of the series going forward. As mentioned before, the game world and the people in it continue to live and evolve even without Gordon's interactions, which is something that Coomer mentions as a kind of weird thing. This seems to perplex him, in fact. I imagine this is because, unlike the rest of the world, Coomer remains unchanged, probably because he needs Gordon to change. He knows how the world works, and like the others, his purpose is that of a tutorial NPC. So that means that not only does he have this meta-knowledge to know that it's weird that the world is changing without Gordon, but as a tutorial NPC created to guide Gordon, without him he remains stagnant compared to the others. In fact, with his tutorial NPC nature, it makes sense that he takes a very soft and calm tone with Gordon throughout the opening, which is a big departure from his more bombastic and chaotic personality prior. Despite him not changing with the world, he has still seemingly softened as a person and as a guide. While Coomer brings up the idea of how a game plays itself without a player, he says,
I intend to do some digging around, find out for myself.
He then does an inverse quote of G-Man from the end of Half-Life 2, when he says, "This is where I get on." Obviously he's referring to getting on the Razor train in Nova Prospect, but the fact that he's quoting G-Man is interesting, as Coomer does sort of fill the same role, albeit not antagonistically, since he knows more than anyone else. With this in mind, I feel the series is going to explore the idea of what makes a world, and more so a game. After all of this is the world that revolves around Gordon, but still it spins without him. Would that not make it a simulation? And for the AIs in it, with their own wants, desires, and lives, are they more or just as important as Gordon, who is real, or do they matter just as much or little because of their existence within this game world? As for Nova Prospect, for those who are not aware of Half-Life 2's general story, as additional voices, whatever, points out later,
Nova Prospect is a very dangerous prison controlled by the Combine. We don't even know what they're doing in there, but if your friend Dr. Coomer has ended up there, it's bad news.
in the game, it acts as the main source of both Combine soldiers in the area, along with stalkers from the Combine, as detained prisoners are either killed or turned into various synths for the Combine's use. This makes the prospect of having Coomer there much, much worse. And as with what I suggested in the previous video, the Combine love them some mad science. In Half-Life 2, Eli Vance is taken there and acts as the goal of raiding the prison to save him, which is a role that is seemingly being filled by Coomer in this series. After this, Gordon follows a Metro cop who's usually Barney in the base game, but turns out to be Leonard from middle school, whom he shoots in the head. Bubby attempts to contact Leonard, who is actually one of his stooges, and after a brief conversation, Gordon flees to the plaza where he meets Christopher again. Chris mentions here that he was born in City 17, and if his suppression field is still canon, that means he had to be at least 20, since he has no memory of pre-Combine world, which unironically is an interesting premise for a Half-Life character, since most of the humans left have some sort of memory of pre-Combine world, so having one without any memory, or even a piece of reference for one, is a fun concept. After beating a cop to death, they hide in an apartment building and flee Metro cops who are raiding an apartment building after Gordon chucks an entire desk at one of their APCs. As a side note, I hope the APC cop ends up becoming a reoccurring character throughout the series. It'd be great if there's just one really pissed off Metro cop who has a one-sided feud with Gordon throughout the entire series. While escaping the raid through the rooftops of the building, Christopher has this thing to say.
Gordon, do you think there's a world outside of this one? Huh? What do you think that there's more to this?
It's a loaded question.
I think there's a world outside of this bullshit. Oh, hold on. It's real slippery.
This line has some interesting implications, as it's possible Christopher could end up finding out about the fact he's in a game, similar to Coomer, since he already has an idea of it. This could be because he drinks the water, or maybe the joke here is that he was close to figuring out, but probably doesn't think about it after the plot is in motion. I don't know. It's also possible maybe he's talking about the wider world beyond City 17. After all, he's never left the city, so maybe he has some views on what is out there past the city walls in the wastelands. After being attacked by a group of Metro cops, Gordon is saved by Alex, who is silent. I talked briefly about her in my previous video, but to summarize, she's most likely the most important character in this series, so keep an eye on her. As for why she is silent beyond the whole Gordon speaks and now she's silent thing, it's unclear. The round is unclear as all the secrets she might be hiding. Frankly, she scares me. Gordon meets with Bubby and additional who don't know Alex. Bubby also seemingly forgot about Benry, but that could be because of his old age, since he did remove a brain chip. It was likely the one referenced by Coomer in Act 2 of HLVRAI.
They're in biological research, Gordon. I have to whisper or else he'll explode.
Gordon, look!
Gordon also gets his food suit, a callback to a line from Benry back in Act 2, when he called the HEV suit a...
Eat this guy.
You have your food suit.
It doesn't feed me. It does a lot of things. It doesn't feed me. My food.
Well, what are you doing wearing it then?
The little screen in the HEV suit voice, probably played by Holly if I had to guess, is just, it's awesome. I love it. During the teleportation sequence, the first major weird thing happens, when the first thing Gordon sees is a multicolored bird. Okay, now back in Half-Life 1 VRAI, birds were a very common running gag through the early acts, as the science team kept killing pigeons, and they also started throwing shit at them during Act 2. The science team ended up giving multiple reasons to why the birds might have been appearing, like them being from the resonance cascade and attracted to it, or an avian research lab being on site. Now back in Half-Life 2, the bit has returned, but with a sense of renewed purpose. Grigori later says these birds are endangered, but now they come in a variety of shapes and sizes, including having odd behaviors and aggression. Possible the birds might be much, much more important than I ever gave them credit for as a viewer, with a possible relation to another character or concept, or maybe they're changing with the game world in a sense of evolution? I guess we'll find out, but the focus on them this time around definitely makes me think this is something else going on, and they might actually be going somewhere with the birds, which I just absolutely would never have expected in a million years. During the teleportation sequence, Gordon's head gets cut off by a bear. It's hard to notice, but it does happen. We also see Mossman, who has no lines, and Gordon throws a hot pizza onto Breen's lap, and we can hear him ordering one later through the City 17 Overwatch, which is funny. And then notably, there is an ichthyosaur jumping out of the water and onto a beach at Gordon, which is vaguely similar to the one from the Gnome finale, but it seems to not be, since I believe the beach used in the Gnome run is actually from Lost Coast. This one has some rocky outcroppings not seen on that beach. We also see Chris, who goes from that one spot to one back near the train station in the time it takes to Gordon to get there, which isn't impossible, but it is funny because it implies the cops moved him. We then also, of course, see Ravenholm, where the most unexpected thing that happens is Grigori jumps at Gordon and teleports with him back to City 17, allowing him to join the main cast way before his actual introduction. After Gordon is back, Grigori reveals he had dreams of Black Mesa, as a reference to Grigori is constantly being spawned in the first series and the accidental no-clip a little bit prior. After a brief argument, the team really gets together as Grigori joins Gordon on his adventure. We then also see that they find Chris, and then later, Zar. It's unclear if the Vortigaunt who blew himself up is also Zar, but it kind of feels like the question of if the scientist who fell in the test chamber in the first series was Bubby or not. It doesn't really matter, but it's worth noting. During the group's journey, multiple 20 signs keep appearing, which is also really fucking weird, and they bring attention to it. This could just be another bit, but also the fact it keeps happening and is noticed by the characters is odd. Grigori says this.
It was a good year, brother.
I got it.
Though it could just be a callback to when the series took place, the first one rather, and when the series started. Or maybe it has some other meaning. Gordon later asks if they're angel numbers, and while I don't think this series is going to introduce a holy being since we already have Grigori, it would be nuts if it gets biblical. The rest of their journey doesn't have too many lore things to know, but the final chapter, not the weird one, starts when we get introduced to another member of our new science team. The Neo-Science team? What the hell are... What would be the name of these guys anyways? I'm not sure about the fandom consensus. For consistency, I'm just going to call them the Neo-Science team because it's funny to me. Anyways, in this chapter we meet Stain, who was in the trailer but in a much different form. I had to cut my theory on that location from the previous video since I thought it was going to be a literal underground bar used to peddle drinks and the food combine didn't allow, but instead it's honestly a lot more unhinged. I'll keep it light on Stain since we still have the character analysis, and trust me, I have a lot to say on Stain, but I'm going to at least mention the fact that it seems the sewers are haunted, since Stain does say...
Is that related to the spooky steps?
What? I don't know. I don't know.
Or the moans from the tunnel? I love to watch that.
What are you talking about?
Later, we get a scene straight out of a Gmod ARG like GM Classic videos when the corpse thrown in the sewer minutes earlier stands up on its own, which actually scared the fuck out of me when it happened. I didn't expect to get jump scared by this specific series. And with that, Gordon takes a sleep, and the video ends. With all that now fresh in your brain and the weird lore stuff discussed, let's focus a bit on the characters. This act, we see the return of Gordon, Tommy, Coomer, Bubby, and Darnold. With characters like Forzen and Benry remain either gone or dead. With Forzen, I get it, if he's going to come back, and that's a big if, we likely won't see him till later. And the same goes with Benry. Obviously, there is a pretty popular theory about where Benry is that I'll be getting to later, but that elephant can wait in the other room. The new named characters introduced are Breen, Christopher, Leonard, additional voices, Grigori, Czar, and of course, Stain. That's a lot of characters to talk about, and since this video's budget is much higher than the previous, check this shit out. It's MS Paint. This is my chart of relationships and general social standings, or CRAGs for short. It has this handy little key in the corner to track the relationships of characters. Up top we have green for green means he's not mean. This means the character feels a general sense of friendship with the other and have the same goals. Underneath is our second type of relationship, which is teal. It means the characters are allied with each other, but aren't necessarily friends. Think of like Darnold during the first series, where he trusts the science team, helps them, but isn't exactly a main part of the group. Next is, which is gray, or who knows what they feel. I'll have more to say about this when we get there, trust me, it's not as boring as a group as it sounds. Then we have our negative sector, with blue for me. I hate you. This is for characters who have negative feeling towards another, but are in the end amicable or working towards the same end. For an example, we have early acts Gordon and Benry, or pre-betrayal Bubby. Finally, red for
I don't like
Yeah, that'd be a little weird,
you.
honestly.
I don't like you at all.
This one is self-explanatory. They hate them, no bits or bobs. While these could be arguable for the character, I think figuring out the complicated web of character relations will help us with my main theory for the video, which is there is going to be a traitor in the group. Back in HLVRAI 1, we already had a betrayal in the group during the apprehension chapter when Gordon was tricked into a room with soldiers by Benry and Bubby. While I do have some specific guesses about the plot of Half-Life 2 going forward, which I'll get into later, one of the main ones is the idea of a plot point of a traitor that will be brought back from the previous series. For context, in base Half-Life 2, the Resistance is stalled out by Dr. Mossman to protect Eli Vance in the Portal Project. I think something similar will happen, possibly with Mossman, or to keep it a surprise, possibly one of our main Neo Science team members. Overall, the group is pretty hostile in this version, with around half of them actively disliking Gordon here at the beginning. This makes it kind of muddy to think about which ones could be a traitor in future, but I think Crag should help us. With that, let's discuss our first character.
Loading!
First up is, of course, Gordon. You may have noticed I have been referring to solely as Gordon during this video compared to the last one, where I jumped between using Gordon and Wayne. This is because I was wrong. Surprisingly, I got sparsely few corrections in the last vid when I was sure I would have missed something major, but thank you to commenter Jog Vodka for telling me about how Wayne confirmed recently on the Wayne Radio TV Discord that Wayne is not playing a character version of himself like originally intended. During the Gnome run, the idea came about to make Gordon a separate character, while Wayne is just playing the character. So from this point forward, I will make sure to be referring to the player of HLVRAI as Gordon for simplicity's sake. To simplify it, basically the main character of HLVRAI is an unnamed player of the game whose actor is Wayne, in the same way he plays characters like Mr. White or Orbulus Raymond. As for the references to him being the player, these are likely just retconned in favor of the new interpretation, likely for more characterization past just being a wackier version of himself. Plus, I'm sure the fandom side of things makes the player a different guy being easier, with making sure there's a disconnect between Wayne and Gordon. That way, there can be a bit more wiggle room for things like a threat of permanent death. So now, Gordon is not Wayne. But the unfiction element remains, as this is a character in the real world playing a game, with his experiences being uploaded to the internet in-universe. One thing I neglected to mention in the previous video was how real this VR tech must feel in-universe. I kind of assumed that Gordon's reactions to pain, like in-game events, was him acting for the AIs, like he tends to do for them. But instead, in Half-Life 2, it kind of implies he might actually be much more wired in than I thought. In Half-Life 2, we see him physically and mentally affected by losing his head and drinking the water. So maybe he has a much harder, hardline connection to the game world than expected. This also explains how something like the gnome switching places with him can happen, since his body is probably physically connected to the same space, in a matter of speaking. I imagine if this is highlighted, it'll be connected to the weird arcane dark magic shit going on, and all the stuff happening at Valve. With the gnome reference, I did want to say that I still do believe that the Gordon in the gnome run is the same Gordon we follow in HLVRAI, specifically because Peppa telling him that he will meet the girl very soon. Unless that was her talking to the audience and not him, it would be weird to have a separate player character called Gordon by the AIs who happens to be told that he'll meet a character only for a different guy with the same name to meet the character instead. As for any changes in Gordon's actions in this series, it's very clearly changed. Overall, he seemed to be a lot more stressed and wound up throughout Act 1, specifically compared to HLVRAI. This is probably due to him, A, not expecting the game to be changed, he expected to load up Half-Life 1, B, having a relatively short period of time, a lot of shitty things happen to him throughout Act 1, and C, not having as strong as a support structure as in the previous series and the original Science team. In HLVRAI, there was Benry and Bubby who were antagonistic at points, but for the most part, Tommy and Coomer acted as a pretty good grounding for Gordon in the heat of the action. In this series, however, Czar and Christopher are actively antagonistic, and constantly Grigori has been the only grounding force for him, so it makes sense he'd be a lot more rushed and stressed with all these factors. Much like last time, I don't have too much to say about Gordon other than his status quo changes mentioned before, although he is much less of a straight man this time around, which is fun. Also, he has erectile dysfunction. I didn't know where else to put.
Rise and shine, Mr. Freeman! Rise and shine!
Tommy so far has only appeared once in HLVRAI 2 at the beginning, which I guess isn't actually a huge deal since that's pretty accurate to G-Man's scattered appearances. As for G-Man's appearances so far, in base Half-Life 2, the two G-Man sightings that have been skipped are both ones where he is on a screen. Specifically one in Kleiner's lab, where the screen is ignored due to a glitch where Gordon got stuck, and the other one is on the screen of the Vortigaunt near the introduction of Czar, where instead the sighting was replaced with the bit of the Vortigaunt blowing himself up. At the moment, it's unclear what they plan to do for the other G-Man sightings, but I have to assume they'll be changed to either Bulb doing something as Tommy, or rather a pre-made animation of Tommy doing something funny. Either way, he seems to be pretty hands-off. As for our relationship chart, I'm going to place Tommy in a tentative teal since he isn't actively helping Gordon anymore, but doesn't seem as selfish as G-Man. But maybe he has really changed, who knows. Same with Gordon, back to him.
We fucked up bad, Gordon.
Yeah.
I touched a little on Coomer earlier, but the choice to make him more of a plot device this time around is genius, as not only does it remove him from the plot to allow new characters to shine, but it also makes the audience emotionally invested in the plot of saving him, since we obviously don't want him to be stalker-fied or whatever. As for the whole traitor theory, it is not nothing that Coomer is willingly going to Nova Prospect. Whether this is to push the plot or because he needs to see something that's specifically there is unclear, but I would be not surprised, although it would still be a pretty big twist if Coomer went bad. There's nothing that really suggests this, of course, but the idea of Coomer betraying Gordon again, if that was him in HL1, could be a major gut punch if he holds some resentment for being left behind, or maybe he sees it as another, trick out of the game world. Still, as of right now, Coomer can be placed in a solid green for Gordon, since they remain very close, all things considered. As for Coomer and Tommy, I doubt they have any contact since this whole G-manifying, but let's just keep it as green based on their previous dynamic.
Yeah, I want him there.
Breen acts as our first new main character, and one of the two unchanged characters we've met so far. Dr. Breen remains the former admin of Black Mesa and the current human representative for Combine and Humanity. I like how he's more active as a taunting antagonist, and he seems more in line with his personality during our Benefactors chapter of Half-Life 2, where he's actively taunting Gordon and dropping his calm facade he tries to keep up for the masses. I feel like we will end up seeing a lot of him overall. Since we're on the topic of the Combine, though, shouts out to the Metro Cop incidentals played by, I believe, Mike and Mira? I hope they become a running gag. Also, the Overwatch, who confirms the city is attacked by wild dogs, and the Balloon Boy incident occurred in this timeline. As for Breen, he gets a solid red mark towards all Resistance allied members. It's also briefly implied in base Half-Life 2 that Breen might know about or even have communication with G-Man, so maybe he and Tommy are in contact after all.
Okay, well, listen. We will figure this all out. We are running.
People. That's why he talked to you.
So, they get a question mark for having possible contact.
You're not racist, you're not a scientist, I'm so conflicted, but keep moving.
Chris is the first original character seen in the series and acts as our kind of point-of-view character for the average City 17 citizen. I'd assume. He has an addiction to Dr. Breen's private reserve and seems to have an immunity to its effects. As stated earlier, he grew up in City 17, so I'm curious to see his reaction to the wasteland, being a city boy and all. He also hates scientists for bringing the Combine to Earth, a sentiment that seemingly plays into actual in-universe Half-Life propaganda made by the Combine seen in Half-Life Alyx, so that's fun. Overall, it's interesting because he doesn't like the Combine, but Christopher is still clearly brought into their propaganda and rely on their water, which his general dislike towards Gordon makes him a prime candidate for a possible traitor along with his reliance on the Combine. Even if a bit on the nose in the foreshadowing department, if that ends up being the case. With moments like Grigori literally saying that he thinks that he wants to harm Gordon, and he calls himself undercover when being beat up by the Metro Cops. As for his relation to the rest of the group, he's probably on blue for Gordon since he is still actively hanging around him, despite his distaste, as he seems to see him as a good luck charm despite everything else that's kind of going on. As for the other Neo Science team members, they get a nice, solid teal.
About that pencil I owed you. It's me, Gordon, Leonard from middle school.
Leonard is a resistant agent working for Bubby undercover, taking the role of Barney in the Combine. He is shot and killed, so, rest in peace, I guess. I bet he used the fact that he knew Gordon in middle school to make all the other Resistance members jealous. Not much to say about him, although I wonder if his death will cause issues later or not, especially with additional probably knowing him and all. On top of that, it's also worth mentioning that the whole idea of him being in that position, of taking Barney's role, is definitely just a reference to the fact that the easiest thing they could have done was literally replace Barney with Benry. So instead, it's a random throwaway character who Gordon shoots in the head immediately. Which I don't think anyone would have guessed that subversion.
Get the fuck out of here now! You gotta go!
Fuck you, dude! What is your fucking deal, man? You changed, you know?
You're
20 years fucked you
cops.
up!
Bubby is back, and with a new model to boot. I really dig the more morally gray Dr. Kleiner role Bubby is taking, as he seems to be doing the whole Underground Railroad and Resistance thing as cover for his schemes, which is fun. His network is also a lot bigger than Kleiner's, with at least 2 undercover Metro Cops, which far outweighs just Barney. He's also getting shit done in general from the looks of it. I mean, he has a lot more just crap in his lab. Bubby's more hands-off role is to be expected, honestly, and I have to wonder if we'll see him at Black Mesa East or if he won't appear again until the return to City 17 after Nova Prospect. There's also the possibility of him being the traitor, which this seems the least likely since he already betrayed Gordon before. The cards are still there, though. I could totally see Bubby selling everyone out if shit hits the fan, but I doubt it'll be him. He's also the only HLVRAI character to return and give us an update on where he's been for the last 20 years, not counting Coomer surfing the web thing that was cut.
I'm gonna be real. There's been a lot that's happened over the last few years. I've removed a brain chip. What else did I do? There's been a lot.
Sick glasses.
So not much, honestly, but the brain chip actually calls back to him being bioengineered, which is probably why he seemingly hasn't aged since Black Mesa, or at the very least slower than he would normally be expected. Of course, it also plays into the whole shadow parallels thing, which segue me into another issue with my previous vid. In the trailer section, I highlighted a Combine truck that commenters like Rising Sun Leader pointed out is actually a reskinned Combine version of the gun truck from City Escape and Sonic Adventure 2. This means likely Gordon and the gang will have to run from it like Sonic. Sonic Adventure 2 also happens to be the first game with Shadow in it, where he is an antagonist. Is this Bubby betrayal shadowing? Probably not, no. As for the relationship chart, Bubby's more asshole-ish nature makes it harder for him to be pinned down on how he feels about others, but he clearly likes Gordon, even if he just considers the science team people he escaped Black Mesa with. So they can all go in teal tier. As for Leonard, he doesn't seem to really give a shit about his death, so let's just say gray, since he seems ambivalent about his existence.
Hello? Hello? What happened?
Yes, I'm aware her name isn't actually spelled like that, and it was a joke, but it's funny, so I'm keeping it. Alex at the moment seems to be more of a kind of setup character. I mean more so rather than a character who is like really plot relevant, at least for the time being. She is seemingly a lot more direct and tends to kind of move around a set path compared to the other AIs, leading Gordon to interact with the environment for her. One thing I didn't mention about the Peppa Pig segment in the previous video was the line,
"Do you hear the sounds of the hollows, Delta?" "I hear that. The girl and I, we know them very well. Don't tell me you can't hear it. Good. The song they sing at the edges of the night. It's quite beautiful. Maybe it's better that you can't hear that, lest you end up like her. 'Tis a shame what befell that girl, really. But I can tell you this, Delta. The White Wood's cool for you."
Whatever the sounds of the hollows are, they likely did something to really hurt Alex. If I had to guess, maybe they might have some connections with whatever eldritch shit is going on in the background. But it could be the reason why Alex is nonverbal. I'd also like to point out that Alex's existence is kind of an anomaly of itself. In Half-Life 2, Alex is the daughter of Eli Vance. For all intents and purposes, does not exist in HLVRAI, with his role being taken by Darnold. This means that Alex, along with not being recognized by anyone, literally shouldn't exist, and yet does, and still tries to move on the path she was meant to originally. We also know from Mike's behind-the-scenes stream that some sort of proprietary technology is being used for her, so I'm terrified to know what that might mean, but it could be based on her strange movements. Overall, I'm terrified, and I have no clue where she is going or what is going on with her as a character, and she gets a question mark for everyone she's interacted with.
Additional voices. That's my name. First name last.
Oh. I mean...
Additional voices is the most normal person I know.
Additional, who I'll just call Addy because his name is long, is another member of the Resistance who works undercover for Bubby. He kinda acts as the main plot pusher, keeping things on the rails. I have a feeling he'll probably appear throughout as our main expositioner, hence the name. Also, this kind of disqualifies him from the possible traitor role, since, come on, do you really think he'll end up betraying Gordon? Character-wise, he also could probably be compared most to a less snarky and less close to Gordon Barney, who of course acts more in line with various citizen NPCs in Half-Life 2 rather than just Barney. He's a funny guy when compared to everyone else, definitely a little fun standout in the cast when it comes to his position within the plot. He gets a firm teal with everyone because he's chill, although green with Czar because he seems to have known him for a minute prior to the series events.
This is how I feel knowing that you are safe and sound.
Darnold is back, taking the role of Eli. He seems to have made Black Mesa East into a place for mixology, which is fun. I do wonder if we'll get a Willy Wonka-esque pour, or at the very least sharing of wacky drinks and flavors. Anyways, he seems to have become more whimsical in his age, compared to the more reserved personality he had in the first series. As for the traitor role, Darnold is doubtful unless the evil Powerade flavor comes back. I do wonder how the gravity gun will connect back to him. Maybe Gordon will drink another potion that gives him gravity powers. That'd be kind of funny. I also wonder if his prosthetic leg will be explained, or if, like the original Eli, it will just kind of be a thing that has happened to him and isn't really brought up. With Coomer also taking Eli's main role as the person who's kidnapped by the Combine, it does worry me what might actually happen to Darnold during the raid on Black Mesa East, since he could actually die there, since he's not, super duper plot relevant. Here's hoping Darnold pulls through to make some more drinks. He gets a green connection to Gordon, Additional, and Bubby, since he considers them faithful friends. and a teal for Alex since he was nice.
My faith level
hurt
is
a man with a sweet face like this, would you?
not intentionally, Father.
This man worries me.
Father Grigori is probably the biggest sideswipe of the entire act. I did not expect him to appear nearly as early as he did, let alone be a member of the main cast. It's awesome too, because he's basically just himself with a more comedic tinge, even down to quoting random scripture and laughing maniacally with a shotgun. He's beautiful. Grigori also kinda acts like the Coomer of the story, and no, not just because he's played by Holly. He tends to have similar mannerisms when it comes to repeating lines. He tends to throw himself directly into harm's way for his friends, but most importantly, he acts as a steadfast companion for Gordon in a relatively hostile group. Grigori is a pretty simple character, but that simplicity empowers him. That being said, I am worried for his safety. For those unaware, in Half-Life 2, Grigori is introduced in Ravenholm, where he acts as the last remaining survivor we know of in the town. He sets up traps and eventually meets with Gordon to lead him out of the mining town. During the segment, he sets off an explosion and heads into the crypts located in the graveyard scene in the town. There he laughs, with it fading off into almost a scream, and his fate is left ambiguous. In the original plans for Half-Life Return to Ravenholm, which was going to be a spin-off, he would have been revealed to live, but honestly, there's a possibility that Grigori could sacrifice himself in Ravenholm, since he already seems pretty gung-ho about the idea in the sewers. His death could be permanent, or be revealed later he did survive as he comes to help the group, but either way, I do worry for his safety since it makes sense they would want to give Grigori more screen time if he is going to die in Ravenholm. It just doesn't bode well for the Mad Monk. It would also be an interesting change on the comparison to Coomer, as Coomer dies and comes back all the time, and Grigori would willingly sacrifice himself permanently. We also have Coomer being at Nova Prospect only 3 chapters later, so it would give time for Holly to prepare for Coomer's return without having to juggle 3 characters at once with wildly different voices. As for Grigori's relationship chart, he's a clear green for the group, and he's probably the biggest team player out of all of them, easily.
Who, me?
Zara is a very welcome addition to the cast. I love the Vortigaunts, and Log does such a great job in mimicking their weird speech while adding to the strangeness to make him even odder. Zara is an inventor, and feels slighted by the fact that Gorgon is on the news. Whether this is a reference to his status as a legendary figure post-Black Mesa, or because he's currently Anti-Citizen 1 is unclear, but either way, he does not like Gordon for it. Zara is also incredibly smart, which is cool. I do wonder if by the time of Black Mesa East he may be designed to have a lab jacket like Araya from episode 2, since he's an inventor and all. While he does not like Gordon, he is very clearly has no love for the Combine, so the possible traitor role is likely not to be him, even if there is some bad blood there. I also wonder if he might drop some Benry lore, since Benry took the place of the Nihilanth who was enslaving the Vortigaunts. But if that's the case, another Vortigaunt could do that info dump, since Zar as a main cast member is more comedic. As for his relations, he gets a blue for Gordon since he hasn't jumped to murder, and a teal for everyone else but Addie, who gets a green.
Oh!
Careful.
Whoa!
Yeah, there's
Holy
a whole
shit!
Enrichment.
There's a whole
Holy
world out
fucking shit!
Where'd you learn to talk like this?
Have the gates become unlatched?
Stain. Holy shit, where do I start with Stain? Out of the new main cast, besides Chris, we get the most background story for him. He was born a fully formed man with the ability to speak and read some words, and lives in a haunted tunnel. He was strangely able to morph his body, and has generally very unstable physicality. Stain is, however, refreshingly, very nice. He only gets angry once when Gordon goes behind the counter, after Gordon was already behind the counter, but he does apologize immediately after, fearing that he'll be left behind. He also says...
I just want to help, but something's stopping me.
Which, no clue what that fucking means. But with Stain, let's discuss that elephant I mentioned earlier. The most popular theory surrounding him is specifically that he might be Benry. As for why this is a popular theory, not only is Stain voiced by Benry's actor Scorpy, he also has Barney's head, who Benry was sort of a stand-in for during HLVRAI. His background story and powers also lead to the idea he may be suffering from amnesia, or an otherwise loss of memory after his defeat, and he's just been kinda chilling since his defeat. Oddly, because he heard the baby mode from the Overwatch announcement system, that means he had to have been born after the Combine set up the Citadel, or whenever the Overwatch was implemented at least. One piece of evidence mentioned in the comments was that the menu from Chronicles of Benry was in Stain's room. But it's actually not there. I checked and I couldn't find it myself. There's a possibility it might be there and I missed it, but you might be misremembering it from when it does appear after Czar's first appearance, which seemingly has no connection back to that video, since it's kind of just a non sequitur. Still, the points there are interesting, and it's kind of what I got from it. It might be the case if Stain isn't just an unrelated character. But I do have a counter theory. At the end of HLVRAI, during the credits, it focuses on a skeleton that is credited as Benry, kind of lurks behind the main cast. I wonder if that is Stain. Benry and G-Man have a lot in common, and the series kind of compares the two in power level, so it's possible that much like Tommy having a metamorphosis into G-Man, as Mike said during his own commentary stream, it's possible that maybe a similar thing happened with Benry, where Stain is the last remaining skeleton who survived. This would functionally make him a offspring or regrowth of Benry, rather than just Benry is back but doesn't have his memories. And the idea intrigues me greatly, because it would allow this character to have some similar traits, and clearly similar powers, without Scorpy having to be just Benry again. After all, Benry does make a cocoon multiple times in HLVRAI, so maybe the skeleton did metamorphize. Then again, it's totally possible Stain isn't even related to Benry, and the Barney model was picked as a nod to the audience since Scorpy is playing him. I am interested to see how far Stain goes when it comes to everything in general, whether he'll become bittered or not. Probably not. But I also wonder how he'll fare as it goes on, because he brings an interesting brand of chaos to the group as a character that is dangerous and unstable, but not exactly hostile. He gets a solid teal for the Neo Science team members, since they just met. It'll probably be green before too long. And that's Act 1. Not the most informative breakdown compared to the last one, but it had a lot less to cover, to be fair. Overall, this is a very exciting start, with some big meaty questions to hang on to, some of them mysteries for them to cover. I'm mainly curious if there's any actual meaning behind the birds or the 20s, and of course, whatever the hell is happening with Alex for the whole. But I'd love to hear some other thoughts and theories in the comments. Legitimately, one of the best things to come out of that last video was seeing some of the other thoughts and various viewer theories. So I just want to say thank you all for so much support and just the stupid amount of views you gave my video. It's especially for my first real video project that took longer than a week. And 500 subs is insane. Thank you all so much. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all for Act 2, and how many other acts there are. Gonna be a long one. I got myself into. Again, sorry if this video is a little more scuffed. Also, sorry it took so long to make. Life stuff has been getting in the way, as per usual. But I hope I will see you again in Act 2. Thank you very much for watching. Oh, fuck, I forgot to talk about Dark Benry Tribute in the last video. I'm going to lose subscriber!